And welcome to Hannity. Now tonight, the loony liberal crybabies, they need to get over themselves and accept the fact that Donald Trump will be our next president. Now what we're seeing from the alt-radical left, as I call them, is so over the top, it's pretty hard to believe, but it is real and it's beyond ridiculous. Now, here's what's happened. Since last Tuesday night, this was Hillary Clinton's election party, after her poor supporters found out she was about to lose the election. And then, of course, you have Hollywood celebrities literally in tears, freaking out. Watch this.
The message that I want to spread out to other women is exactly what you're saying, is not to give up. Sorry, I want to move to Spain. I really, really want to move to Spain right now. And everyone in my office is like, you have a responsibility, you have a voice, and you need to use it, and you have to be here.
She was really excited yesterday, and I was really sad for her. My mom's name happens to be Hillary.
I still think that in her lifetime she deserves to be the first female president. And that's what makes me so sad. Is that I just wish that she had that opportunity because she's fought for so long.
Get over yourselves. It's gotten even worse. Now, according to the New York Post, these elite private schools in New York, right in New York City, they're helping these coddled, pampered students, quote, deal with the election results. They're bringing in therapy dogs and offering, quote, disaster counseling. The Wall Street Journal is reporting that co-eds at an Ivy League university, Cornell University, are holding cry-ins where the faculty are providing students with tissues and hot cocoa, and that the University of Michigan is handing out coloring books and allowing college kids to play with Play-Doh to help these poor kids from the discomfort of losing an election. Also reports students at campuses all across the country today staging walkouts to protest Donald Trump. On top of that, you got all these left-wing agitators day after day after day taking to the streets to cause disruption and chaos over Donald Trump's victory. Look, let me unpack this for you and get rid of all the clutter for just a minute. Is this really the country we are? Is this where we are at this moment? Because I was not happy with the results in 2008, 2012, and I'm sure some of you watching weren't that happy either. Did you see me throwing a temper tantrum? Was I crying hysterically? Was I carrying on because I didn't get my way or you didn't get your way? Of course not, because that's not how adults act. But apparently this is how the PC culture, where everybody's a winner, everybody gets a participation trophy, and these liberals operate. I mean, really, therapy dogs? We have a national epidemic, about 250,000 soldiers coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan, real suffering that they're going through. It's called PTSD. They experience real pain, real trauma, real suffering, watching their friends have their legs blown off and die right in their arms. But we're supposed to roll out the red carpet for sore loser liberals because their subpar, crooked, corrupt candidate lost an election? Please, give me a break. I think it's time to grow up. And how about these protesters? Why do they have so much free time on their hands? Do any of these people have jobs? Isn't it time to get out of mommy and daddy's basement and maybe go to work? Maybe time to start contributing to society instead of throwing a hissy fit because they didn't get what they wanted? This is way out of control. PC culture. It's part of the reason why you, the American people, I argue, voted for Donald Trump. Because the nonsense that's being carried out from this overly coddled generation, this has got to stop. Everyone doesn't get a trophy. Everyone can't be the winner. And the only person who gets to be president right now is going to be Donald Trump because he won. That's how real life works. And on top of all of that, according to Politico, and you got that guy, billionaire progressive liberals like George Soros, well, they're now meeting with key congressional Democrats. Why? They want a plan to come up with and spend a lot of money and try and stop the mandate that you gave Donald Trump and, quote, take back power. Now, think about it. If you're my age, would this have been acceptable behavior when you were growing up or when your parents were growing up or your grandparents were growing up? Well, of course not. My grandparents, they came to this country from Ireland. They had 20 bucks in their pocket. They maybe knew one person over here and maybe had a little corner in the basement to sleep in every night. There were no therapy dogs available to them. They had to go to work 16 hours a day, and literally they had to cope with institutional racism. Irish Catholic need not apply at the time. There was no coddling. There was no comforting for my father. He grew up poor in Bed-Stuy in Brooklyn. My mother, who grew up in the South Bronx, no coddling for them, no therapy dogs for them. but they did bust their humps to afford a tiny Cape Cod house on a 50 by 100 lot, and they didn't whine. They didn't complain. They worked hard for all that they had. They didn't take vacations. They sacrificed for their kids. I wasn't traumatized because I delivered papers at 8, and I was washing dishes by hand in a restaurant every Friday and Saturday night and Sunday when I was 12, and cooking when I was 13, and bussing tables at 14 and 15, and waiting tables at 16, and tending bar at 17. I love those jobs. I always had money in my pocket. There was no therapy session for me when I was working, no hot cocoa from a teacher, or when I was working construction, carrying lumber for framing or lugging shingles or painting or hanging paper or laying tile. I can't relate to this absurd behavior, and I doubt you can either. This is not what America's all about. This is now collective insanity, and it's really all time for these little pampered, spoiled brats to get over themselves. The election has been won, and Donald Trump will be your next president. Joining us now is President-elect Donald Trump's senior advisor, Kellyanne Conway. We've been friends for over 20 years. Did I ever send you a therapy dog? Did I ever send you hot cocoa? Did I ever give you a crying room because you lost? Did we ever protest together? I don't think so.
Maybe a cigar and a cognac here and there, which is more our style. And certainly not to degrade the office of the presidency or cry crocodile tears into that cognac about who had won the election. I mean, look, I was raised the way you were raised, very humble beginnings, but most importantly, we were always raised to respect the office of the presidency and its current occupant and the flag. And that's it, and all that that represents. And, you know, Sean, when I listen to the protesters, when I listen to the professional politicians whine and cry over Donald Trump's election, I haven't heard anything new. All of their grievances and complaints are so pre-election. We heard all of this. We heard it constantly from the elites. We heard it from the mainstream media. We heard it from many of the paid protesters before the election, and yet it was rejected. Donald Trump got he got 60 million, 65 million votes. He got over 42 million, about 30 million of women voted for him. He got a larger percentage of the African-American vote, larger percentage of the Hispanic vote, about the same percentage, slightly higher among unmarried women. I mean, this is a man who was elected fairly and squarely. And by the way, what do these people actually fear? Do they fear that he is going to provide job creation and economic growth for all those folks who are being told by college professors we're going to have safe spaces and we're now going to give college credits if you'll protest the election of Donald Trump? I'll tell you what, 2 weeks ago, what was all the narrative? All the talk on cable TV and elsewhere was what? Will Donald Trump accept the election results? That was a great question to ask about the wrong candidate and the wrong candidate's movements. And it's the people who defied Donald Trump before he was elected who now will not accept the election results. I like the fact that Joe Biden today, the vice president, said that they weren't ready, their government wasn't ready right away, and the Trump-Pence administration can't be formed overnight either. He said he feels, quote, confident in having met with Vice President Pence and his family today. He feels confident that the government is in good hands. So, you know what, folks? You were for Obama and Biden, listen to Obama and Biden. They're trying to give Trump and Pence a chance.
Look, they need it. It's not easy to build a government, but you see what's happening. Even Alan Dershowitz went to bat for Steve Bannon, and Joel Pollak and Pam Geller, prominent members of the American Jewish community, saying that this is a smear and a slander against Steve Bannon. You see what's written about Rudy Giuliani, obviously an attempt to prevent Donald Trump from picking Rudy Giuliani. And I'm going to argue that whoever he picks is going to come under a lot of scrutiny and fire that Obama's picks never came under. Are you prepared for what the continuation, basically, of a corrupt media that had colluded, and we learned had colluded with the Clinton campaign during the election cycle? Do you expect that it's going to be different for you guys?
Well, we know it's going to be the same it was pre-election. And I would just tell these people, give this president-elect his opportunity to nominate and to appoint his cabinet, his senior team. And the idea that it's presumptively negative against each of them, the idea that the person is guilty until proven innocent as a senior staffer or a member of the cabinet is really unprecedented, Sean. And I will tell you about a meeting I had today with President-elect Trump and Leonard Leo, the head of the Federalist Society. Senator Sessions was there. We talked about the Supreme Court. We talked about President-elect Trump's list of 21 possible nominees to the United States Supreme Court to fill that vacancy due to the untimely death of conservative jurist and constitutional hero Antonin Scalia. And we talked through the list. We talked about all the vacancies in the federal judiciary below the United States Supreme Court, in the circuit courts, and other legal positions. It was a very productive meeting. And I think if people had witnessed that meeting, they would see that this is a very engaged president-elect who's going to make good on his campaign promises and do what's right by the country. But, you know, we're treating these adolescents and these millennials like precious snowflakes. I'm just amazed how many texts and emails I'm receiving as one person of all these professors saying you don't have to take the test, you can get college credit if you protest. What's the worst thing that can happen to these millennials? That Donald Trump will make good on his promise to create 25 million new jobs, that he'll unleash energy investment, that he'll get rid of the Obamacare penalty on day one so that you're not forced to buy government-run health care. I mean, what is the worst thing that can happen to them? That millions of Americans currently in poverty and without health insurance will actually do it? Get it?
Okay. What will Kellyanne's position be in the Trump administration?
Well, President-elect Trump has made very clear that he would like me to continue to serve him the way I have been, in a very unique position for him. And I want to be there for my best and highest use, so that those are conversations that he and I are having. I don't look at myself as a huge priority. I'd rather watch him form his cabinet and take these calls.
I think you're a huge priority. I'd put you right at the top of the list. You were great for Donald Trump.
Well, thank you. I will continue to support him and his presidency, and Vice President Mike Pence, who I've worked with for a dozen years, any way that they feel that I can be most helpful. I
only want one thing from Mr. Trump, and it's not an invitation to a stupid ball. I hate them, or the White House Correspondents' Dinner. I've never gone.
You're coming.
Huh?
Inauguration Day is my 50th birthday. You have to come.
Okay. I'll try. I've never been to one. I only want one thing. Just keep your promises. Keep your promises, and don't listen to these idiots in Washington. That's my advice.
Sean, he's already doing it. He's already draining the swamp, and I think that's why you get all of these negative, unattributed quotes in the print press these days, and some people on TV who don't know what they're talking about. I think they're scared to death that this guy is really going to shake up the system, that he means what he says when he says we don't need all these consultants, we don't need all these lobbyists, we don't need all these the professional class, what I've always called the, quote, staph infection.
All right, good to see you, and I know you will be a huge asset to his team. Thanks for being with us.